quiet entry here. Thank you. The Iditarod lived. It's fine. Welcome for Tales of the Trail, we call this talk. And I'd like to first thank Reverend Nancy Lincoln and the Noah's Ark Ministry from the Woods Presbyterian Church for hosting this. They've done a great job, you can see, setting it up, and they also have refreshments afterwards to dive into. Also, I'd like to mention that the talk is in reference sponsored for the SPCA and the benefit to them. I've been doing volunteer work for them for about 1.5 years at this point, and I can truly say that the executive director, Kelly Brown, and the entire staff are more passionate and dedicated and true advocates of animals than you can see. They're really great. The other interesting thing, what I found out, and I didn't realize, was the Anne Arundel County SPCA does not get any funds, county funds, state funds, any kind of funds except for private donations. So if you didn't mind, they appreciate, I know there's going to be a box at the end as you're leaving, if you were able to give donations, that'd be great. Okay, well let's go right now, 4,000 miles away, there's 56 mushers and 1,020 dogs running probably about the most treacherous and rugged land you can see up in Alaska. And it's called the Last Great Race for that reason. My first experience with it was I got a phone call from Alaska, and it was the chief veterinarian up there telling me I'd been accepted for the race as a trail veterinarian. Well, yes, I was so excited I was going to Alaska and the Iditarod that I got on the phone with him and I said, oh my golly, this is going to be fun. I'm so excited, it's going to be fun. And then there's a pause in the phone call from Alaska to back to the United States here. So I expected this pause. So I finished that, and there was a pause, but then there was more pause. And then there was even more pause. And he finally came back on and he says, no, it's not going to be fun. It'll be an experience, but it's not going to be fun. So that was my introduction into the race itself. Now, let's see where we are here. Okay, that's what's going on right now up there. There's the teams winning right now is Jeff King, and he's one of the top mushers, won 4 times. They're just going out of Ruby, which is -1 degree at this point, and there's some other mushers high on the trail. I'll show you on those papers how you can follow just what I've done here and get instant updates on it. Okay, this is what it's all about. And as I say, I was so excited about the first time that I had all different types of fantasies. I thought, I'm going to go up there, and Brendan and I will go up, and when the race sort of slows down about 7 o'clock at night, we can go back to the hotel and we're happy about it, sitting in the jacuzzi, and guess what? Not like that at all. First of all, the teams, there's a team running 24 hours a day, so you're working about 20 hours out of 24 hours working with these dogs because they're coming and going all the time. This team, the teams right now, 56 teams, is very low. The last time I was there, we had 96 teams. It was like over 1,700 dogs running. But the conditions are not as good this year. There's a lot of lack of snow, and some of the sleds are breaking apart. They've already had like 15 dropouts, which is sort of high. But the teams will scratch it. They're just not safe for the dogs. The dogs are doing well, but they're just not safe. But anyway, so it wasn't like that. It was they said they take care of your room, your food, and your transportation. Well, your food is village water, Tang, and cornflakes. Your transportation are the bush planes that I'm going to take you for rides on in a little bit. And the shelter are generally tents or dog shacks, the top, first class. Four-star dog sheds. But anyway, now this is the Alaskan mountain range up here. There you go. That's the Alaskan mountain range that these dogs have to go through, and you can see how rugged this is. I'm going to, in a little while, as I say, take you on a plane ride through that and see what you think of it. But this, I think I have a close-up of this. Yeah, this is a close-up. If you see this little willow area here, and there's 2 trails. Well, the story with this one is Susan Butcher, who was again a very famous musher, she won 4 times. A few years before, she had been attacked. She was coming around a bend like this, and there was a moose standing in the trail. And moose are not like the little bullwinkles you see on TV. They're big, they're mean, and they're territorial. And with that moose standing on the trail, there was no way it wanted to go into this deep snow, so it stood there. And it attacked her team. One of the dogs was killed, another was seriously injured, but they medevaced it out, it had surgery, and it lived, but then it was going to attack her. Well, the musher came around behind her and fired a couple shots and scared it off. But this particular year, she was coming around this one, and there was a moose standing right out there again. So she had to wait for an official to finally approve that she could go that way. So that's how the race starts here. Okay, the race consists of lots of different terrain. They go running on these frozen riverbeds. This is on the frozen Bering Sea. This is, again, that Alaskan mountain range. You can see a musher down here, and that's what they go up into. They're just monstrous mountains, and I'll show you some pictures of those. They start with 16 dogs, and they never can add, in other words, you can drop dogs as they're going along. I'll explain that later too, but they can drop dogs. They can't pick any dogs up, and they have to end with 6 dogs. So that's it. Now, let's see. Okay, this is what's called a whiteout, and this is a very, very dangerous situation up on the Bering Sea itself. But the winds blow so severe, and it just blows all the snow up so that for that, your visibility is about 10 feet sometimes. And these mushers get out there on these trails, and they have to rely on the dog and their smell to get themselves navigated. The other thing that's very dangerous about these, probably about 40 feet up in the air above, is crystal clear. But these things are just tremendously on the ground. And the problem is with these bush planes, if they get up and one of these gets underneath them, they don't know where to land. And so there's crashes, which we'll talk about too. But anyway, okay. This is another area they run through, and this is called the Burn. And this is about a 40-mile area that had a severe forest fire, but it was 40 years ago. And the conditions are so rough that they've never had anything grow back here again. So these teams run through this, and it's all logs and, whoops, sorry. Okay, it's here. It's a little pusher here. But anyway, there's logs and so forth. It's very, very rough territory for the dogs to run, but they do great on it. If you look closely, you might see, where is it now? I'm looking closer to, there's a little pink ribbon somewhere up there. Right there. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's one of the trail markers that these dogs will see, and so that's part of it too. Okay, this is the map, and I think you all have a copy of it. You're allowed to take that home with you. And it has the full race with all the checkpoints along the way. If you notice, there's a circle in the middle, and on the even years, the race goes on the northern part. On the odd years, it goes on the southern part. And this is an even year, so you're following, going up and over at this point. On the back, though, I have some information. There's a recommended reading, suggested reading, and these are 3 books there, and they're all fantastic. I'll assure you with that. There's the one called Winter Dance, and that's by popular author Gary Paulson, who writes children's books and also writes them for adults. But this was his rookie year he wrote about, and it's funny and honest and true. And that's it. If I had friends read it, and they love it. So the other book is called The Cruelest Miles, and that is actually the outbreak. Well, I'm not going to take such a question for you. I'll put it here. But anyway, it's a great book about the beginning of the Iditarod and how it started. Yeah. Now, when I first got home, for 10 times, lots of people asked questions, and I loved answering them, so it was fun. So that was not a problem. But I geared this talk around what most of the common questions were and trying to answer them with that in mind. So I'm going to have the first contest here, and that's my back. Okay, we have for prizes tonight official dog sled booties off of the trail. They use these for certain roads. They use these for certain trail conditions. When the snow is a certain consistency, they put these on to protect their paws. Nobody can get these though, except because they're only on the trail, veterinarians and judges, and so they're sort of a collector's item, to be honest, and they're auctioned off at banquets up in Alaska itself. So for winners tonight, you will win one of these. Also, to keep you from leaving too early, we do have picked 8 or more, depending on how many we have left here, names from the people that made reservations to draw to have one of these. How's that? Now, to help me tonight, as far as the contest and raising your hand, please raise your hand, don't yell out, okay? I had I gave this talk to a group of, well, all of the deans of the veterinary schools in the United States, and I told them the same thing, please raise your hands, don't yell out. Well, here you are, somebody in academics who think, really know. So I gave the question, they're all, whoa, they're yelling, oh my golly. Don't be like the deans of the veterinary schools. But I'm going to have Nancy Lincoln help me come up here, and she's going to be watching the first hands that go up for this. And as a matter of time, why don't we make it 12, or no, I'm sorry, 5 answers, okay? If that's okay. Okay, ready. Now, I know that Nancy has eagle eyes because she's the only one that catches me napping in the church service. Okay, you ready? First question is, the most common question was, why did I do it? Why did I do it? Here you are living in Suburban Park, gorgeous area. Wait a second. Gorgeous area. Why would I go up to something like that? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, where was she? She had a picture on. I saw that. Right here. I have no idea what.
Because of the love of the dogs and the animal and the care that you.
Well, that's a good question, but sort of close, but no.
Somebody else is right back here.
Fun.
No, not on any experience.
Okay, right here.
For the experience,
You're the first one that's ever answered right. Never had anybody in my talk hand it. Wow. There you go. Congratulations here. Thank you. Good. What I'm going to show you why that was my answer, is to get a lot of experiences, and I'll go through that with you. Okay. Now, moving on here, we got, okay. This is the headquarters of the Iditarod. It's in Wasilla, up about 30 miles north of Anchorage. So if you ever get a chance to go up there, I recommend going. That's where Sarah Palin was governor, mayor. And, but it has lots and lots of history and neat things, and also lots of souvenirs. Now, here's the next question. This one, the race commemorates something. What does the race commemorate?
Actually, this one right back here.
Okay.
the race commemorates the Iditarod, the race for the guy to get the medicine.
Yeah, pretty good. Yes.
Close,
Yes.
but not quite, huh?
Well, what was the illness of this?
Oh, what was the illness?
Yeah,
Do you know what the illness was? And we know.
yeah.
Okay, yes ma'am.
Cold. It was the no-serum race. There was an epidemic of diphtheria.
Right.
And so if you know about Balto, that's...
That's the next question.
That's all right, we can deal with it.
Please raise your hand. Here you go. This is for her, and this is for the first one there, because that's a
Okay.
pretty close answer.
Okay, good. This is kind of like, if I quit being a minister, I can be man of light. This is awesome.
Okay, well, yes, the lead dog was Balto, and this is Balto. That's him, but he's mounted or He's actually up in the, it's an interesting story with Balto. And again, this is in the book Cruelest Miles. It's all about how the race started, the outbreak of diphtheria, and again, it's a true story. It's the book you can't put down. But basically, Balto, this was all followed by the lower 48, as they call us up there. But it was all followed in all the big papers and so forth down here. And when he made it, he became a movie star. He went to Hollywood. His team went with him, and he was really big stuff. Unfortunately, a circus took him, and he started lowering his horse and so forth, and was really living not very well. And a group of children out in Cleveland, Ohio, found out about this, and they put up a big campaign to bring him and his team, the rest of the team, out there. And so they were collecting pennies and everything else, and this was being followed. So they did bring Balto and the rest of the team out there, and he did live a happy life out there until 1933. Then he was processed, I guess, and then taken back to Anchorage. If you're interested, there's a museum in Anchorage that does have Balto. Okay, now let's get into talking about the dogs. One thing, and I guess some of you are here to hear about the possible abuse on these dogs and so forth, and I'd like you to just keep that in mind as you watch these pictures and movies and so forth, and see if you think, I've heard stories about they make them run and they're all on drugs and they hate it and all sorts of things, and people abuse them. So see what you think as we go along with this. But this is all about the dogs themselves. They're only about 48 pounds, so they're not big dogs like you would expect, and they're not Siberian Huskies. They're called Alaskan sled dogs, is what they are, and they're crossed. They actually evolved from the dogs thousands of years ago when there was the Bering Strait, the Bering Bridge that came across from Siberia to Alaska now, and the people came across that. Well, these dogs came across also, and these are the ones that evolved from the survivals of like the famines and cold and so forth long ago. They're very, very hardy dogs. Sometimes, I don't know if there was a picture before or not, but they were, when they were evolving, but there's a dog like this that had vivid blue eyes, and that was the gene from a husky that's first living there somehow. Okay. This is how, when they're come into a checkpoint, they'll all crowd together, and there's actually 4 dogs there. But and you'll see them sticking their nose under their tail, and that's sort of like the fur ruff that the mushers and we wear up in the race itself. Okay, there's not one ounce of fat on them. They're all muscle and bone. And to be honest, the first time I gave an injection up there, I'm used to the suburban park dogs. They're sort of like me. And it just isn't, well, I bent 3 needles. I mean, there's nothing to put them in. And I bent 3 of them before I learned how you give an injection to these dogs. One summer I was up and took over practice up by the Arctic Circle for veterinary. And I love surgery. I used to teach it. And I was going to do a dog surgery, exploratory of a dog. And this hospital had no water, no staff, and I was by myself. Well, this was probably about the hardest surgery I had because it was just like sort of cutting through the board. There was no give or take like you usually get in surgery. And there I was by myself with a board I was cutting through. But anyway, so they are truly that. The other thing though is that they are, here's one here. They burn 10,000 calories a day and above in the race. And the other amazing thing is, and this I've had to check a couple times because I didn't believe it, but they have, on the average, 5 million times better smell than we do. I've looked at it. I mean, it goes from like 1,000 up to 500 or 5 billion. Something. It's just amazing. But you took it in the middle there. It's about 500,000 more than ours, and that's why these dogs can find a sense. They can go, where they want to in the race. They know where the race is and follow the other dogs. And also, I finally realized that when I'm running out of the hospital late and I have to go to a social function, that's why the dogs think I'm a smorgasbord. Okay. Anyway, they're great and you enjoy them. After you've been out on the trail for a while, and you're sort of a little bit loopy and sleep deprivation, or you start talking to them like your pet's at home, and they enjoy listening to you. Okay, when the race first starts, before it starts actually, this is where they, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, this is actually how the dogs travel. There's a truck and the dogs, and then the sled's up on top of it. And sometimes they travel with a full house. And here's two happy ones there. Okay. Now, these are the booties I was telling you about on these dogs, and they wear them periodically just with certain conditions where there's sort of icy crystals on the snow, and they wear them well. And prior to the race, all these dogs are given comprehensive physical exams. We do a EKG, and that's read by a board-certified cardiologist. They're given a full blood profile. They're given a full comprehensive exam, their eyes, their teeth, lungs, heart, everything. They're given their vaccinations, their worm, and they have a microchip put in them. I have a friend who's on a marathon. He said, they don't do any of that to us. Okay, now this is one of the famous teams here. This is a team of standard poodles that came. And it was quite an event seeing them. Now, everybody asks what happened to the poodles, so I'll tell you at the end. You'll see what happened to the poodles. Okay? Okay, well, this is it. This is the start of the race. This is like, oh gosh, Super Bowl, the week of the race, or the game at this town it is. Everybody's excited about it. And I'm going to take you on and see what some of these dogs are like. When I did this, I've taken a lot of film every year of the starts and finish of the race and everything. And I gave it to Brandon to sort of put it together, and then I could look at it. I said, Dr. Rogge, he says, you have 1 hour and 54 minutes of starts. There we go. Whoops. This race starts down in Anchorage. The ceremony will start. And if you can picture, normally it's about 1,600 dogs running. And these teams of 16 are lined up one after the other all the way down this main street of Anchorage. And they're howling. Hopefully we'll get some howling in here. But they are howling so loud, and it's so exciting. And I get it again. I'm not kidding you. Every time I talk about it, I get goosebumps because I remember what it was like. It's just amazing. So hopefully we'll get some noise here for you. Okay, here's another team. Yeah, I mean, you can see them start. I mean, they are really going. And okay, now let's see. But there's not allowed to walk in the middle. Well, if you can picture a dog, it's already past it. There's a starting arch, big arch. And behind, if I'm standing here, behind me are all these platforms, all the TVs and radio announcers all up in a fair. Well, I thought this was a great place to take these pictures, so I'm laying on the ground late, and someone came right by me. The problem was the next day in the Anchorage Daily News, they had a picture from the top, and it looked like a drunk flew over the what do you think? There's no bark. This is like a horrendous amount of barking here, but you can see these dogs. Jeez. Could you get off of this? Could you turn this one up? Or? Yeah, that's a shame. Well, anyway. Okay, well, let's go on then. Now this is, what did you do? Okay, this is actually, I had a friend that was able to bid and get into the basket itself. So you're sitting right there down there. At this time, all these people on the side are screaming and yelling at you. It's really exciting. So you have to imagine. How about my people start screaming and yelling? There you go. Okay, very well. Okay, now this should stop. Okay, now, and then it picks up out on the trail itself. And this is where it's sort of quieter anyway with the snow, so you don't have to yell now. But, and then, okay, then, whoops. Yeah, this, I guess a lot of you know the famous corporate business saying, and this really proves it right here. If you're not the lead dog, you never changes. So do it a little bit more. Now, okay. Okay, now this is the race. If you, well, again, you didn't see much of it there, but the start of the race is all sunny and cheery and everything else. Now this is later in the afternoon, and this is sort of a little bit eerie because it gets cloudy, and you see these are the mushers taking off onto the trail, and they're sort of saying goodbye to their friends and family. And they'll be going out there like for 10 days, 15 days with no help. Nobody can help them. And it's pretty severe conditions out there, so it's just an eerie time. This, I'm looking out here. Also, you'll notice I have beards, gray beards, and everything else. Somebody said to tell them it's because I'm disguising myself, the police are after me or something like that. But actually, it's just a collection of pictures from the different years. But I'm looking out, and if you can see there's some teams going out towards these mountains, just the Alaska mountain range. And they'll be up in these mountains at that night. Now, the veterinarians, we're there to really oversee the welfare and health of the dogs and the caring. So the one thing is we have the prerogative of having a musher drop a dog, dropping it, meaning it, taking out of it. And these are done just at the checkpoints themselves. There's 26 checkpoints along the way. And these teams will, if their dogs are tired or not feeling well, whatever, they'll drop them there. But if they're not going to go with it, we have the prerogative saying you have to drop the dog. So I always picture this, seeing this fellow at 2 o'clock in the morning to tell me he has to drop a dog. But in actuality, in the 10 years I was there, I've never had a musher go against what I've said. In fact, most of them know more than I do sometimes. But with it. Susan Butcher, remember Susan Butcher? She came into one of my checkpoints one time and walked up to me and told me, she said, I'm dropping J12. It's got baricial bursitis in the right front shoulder. Okay. But in actuality, these mushers were very happy and would help us. And there's one fellow helping me. That's one of those dogs that bent my needle. And here's one where they're actually showing us some of the harnesses on the dogs and different styles of them. Okay. Now, what does a musher do while he's going on his way? Okay, they are working about 22 hours a day I'll go through what they're working on, but they are they don't get any sleep or rest the whole time. And this is where they're chopping. This is frozen salmon that when the dogs come into the race or the checkpoint itself, they'll throw these out like it's sort of little appetizers that they love eating it while they're getting the rest of the food ready. And one of the first things they do, they throw out the straw. They're bedding it, big piles up there, and they throw this out so the dogs have some bedding to lay on, and they're immediately starting to treat the dogs. One of the ways they treat a lot of times their feet problems. They have, as far as conditions that they get, sometimes they'll get sores in their feet itself, and there's medication. They're not allowed, this is something, they're not allowed to use any kind of pain medicine on the trail. That there's no way they're covering any kind of pain. If the dog isn't feeling well, limping or whatever, they take them out of the race. So they're not given all the things like marathon runners get or whatever. They just are either pure sound or they're out. And but they will sometimes get, and again, they're not allowed to do anything, really, except massages and so forth. And they have ointments, but they don't have any steroids in the ointments. And one of the things that they do is actually massaging. And they'll come in sometimes with swollen carcasses here, and it's just from the pounding and running. And they can put these salves on, and they wrap it with saran wrap, and then they put a rubber thing on top of it and massage it. And literally, like 2 hours later, when they go out, they're perfectly normal. But again, there's no masking any pain while they're on the trail itself. Oops. Okay, then they get their food going, and basically most of the foods today are commercial brands. Eagle's a big one up there, and for the food companies, it's sort of a good thing to have as far as to be able to show that your dog, that their food is used on the Iditarod itself. Again, keep in mind they're burning over 10,000 calories a day. After all the dogs are bedded, you can see down here they're sleeping. Then, did bring my trusty old doing. Okay, these are the dogs that are sleeping, but you can see there's the musher working on a sled right now. And there's somebody standing watching him, but again, nobody can help them. Nobody can even do anything. The only time you can help a musher is if there is an emergency. You know, if they're falling through the ice and the water, something like that. But otherwise, they cannot do it. Guess what? Thank goodness, I kind of lose. You have to watch that picture all night. Okay, here's the musher still working on him. Here's the dog sleeping. They know what to do. They'll come in and they'll just rest and fall asleep. And when they're ready to go, it's interesting because these dogs love it so much that I was up and you see more picture of the Rogge Pass, which is up in the top of the mountains. And the dogs sleeping, they would actually be covered by snow. There were blizzards up there so much, so you just would sort of see little humps and really didn't even see the dogs. And they do fine, but they're under the snow. And the musher's been in the cabin for just a little while. He walks out and he'll just sort of go like this on the sled, just sort of like that. And all these dogs just roar up right through the snow and they're screaming and howling. And again, unfortunately, you can't hear it on here, but it's an amazing thing. Okay, now these are the trail marker makers, and this is how the race runs. These people have these big snow machines, snowmobiles, and they go out just ahead of the lead racer at that time, and they actually follow the trail, and they sort of groom it along there. Now the team after that runs through there, and they put out these markers. You can see these markers here with the red. They'll put those several hundred feet apart to keep them going in the right direction. But generally with storms and all, they're going right away. So these other teams are going with their scent and picking up, and they're just following the lead team along. So that's how it works with that. Now, let's see where we're over here. Okay, now, how about for a booty? Let's see. You ready, Nancy? Okay, here we go. This one might be a quickie here. Okay. Who is that? Oh my God. John. I saw John go up first. Right there. Yeah. You're right. Holy smokes. Good guess. Okay. Was she? Oh, sorry. She was. Here. She really became famous. She's a 4-time winner. And here you can see she's not big or anything else, and she just would win. And these mushers, these are big, mean guys in the north and all, and they can't stand this. They're just going absolutely bonkers for this woman winning all the time. But then they really went bonkers when this T-shirt came out that said, "Alaska, where men are men and women win the Iditarod." Now, when you're on the trail, there's lots of challenges we have as veterinarians, but probably one of the worst challenges is when you can't get there and you can't get there quick. Okay. Okay, now here's a common picture when you're out on the trail. It can be like this in the day, it can be like this at 3 in the morning. And all these dogs have to be given a comprehensive exam, and you're just working, you never stop, so it's amazing. So lots of times it's like this, and you just, as I say, you can't sit down, you can't stop. But every once in a while, it just gets boring. It sits there. So the veterinarians have come up with a game. It's like, how many veterinarians can fit in an outhouse? Now, let's see. Okay, this shows you as the teams come in these checkpoints. It's sort of almost like the race cars, and these are slots that are all chosen as far as where they're set up like this prior to it, and the teams come in and go up there. You can see some teams coming around there, and they're coming in at this point. Oh, here's one of our hotels we stay in. And because it gets summer pretty soon, there's no heat in this at all. There's a canvas seat, and you're there for 4 days, just there. So anyway, but again, there's nothing here. It's desolate and everything else. Well, one morning I woke up and I look outside and here's, I did espresso. This guy actually flies in his plane and sets us up in the early morning and serves espresso to the mushers and us. And so if you want a latte, it's a good place to go. Okay, now this is what a veterinarian would be doing, is a team normally comes into a checkpoint. And we're watching dogs coming in, you're looking for lameness, just lethargy, anything like that as they come in. Then they'll come up to the checkpoint itself, and this is the checker, and he's checking everything as far as their, make sure they have all their safety equipment. And here's the musher, and here's the judge watching everything too. But while that's going along, the veterinarian, we're walking around these dogs and just looking at their general health and how they're lethargic and things like that. Excuse me. This dog's happy, he's chewing his booty, but this dog rolling in the snow like that, and that's a sign they're really feeling great. Those white spots you see, they're actually reflective tape. They're put on the harnesses, so when the musher is running at night, you can see where the dogs are going. Oh, shoot. Well, anyway, let me just whip away with it. This, here you go. But anyway, I guess an outdoors person usually has a favorite knife they always carry along with them. You know, like for sailors, when you have to go down and cut the line that's fouled with a propeller, like if you're hiking on the Appalachian Trail and the bear comes. Well, I had mine all the time, and I never had anything to do with it. I mean, it was really sad because I got all these different things, and there was my knife sitting there. Well, I finally got to use it because we're out at one of these checkpoints, and you can't take showers out of there, of course, so we use these Huggies, baby wipes, and we go in the tent and sort of wipe ourselves out. Well, we had a true emergency, and it was so cold that the bag froze, and I was able to use my knife to, I was able to open the baggie, but Huggies get my knife. My experience in wildlife in here. Let's see. Now here's what we're talking about, dropping dogs. This is at the checkpoint, and these dogs have been dropped. They're tired, not feeling well, whatever. At that point, they can be treated medically. We can give them medicine for pain, inflammation, or anything like that. But when they're on the trail, they cannot. And these dogs are picked up by bush planes as they fly along, and battery went out. They go up and take them home. And sometimes, actually, when they're ill, they actually take them. There's a women's prison, and they'll take them out there, and these ladies will really take great care of them. So anyway, so that's that part. Then how do you get the food out? I mean, they have food all the time. How do they get that? Well, they bring these bags out ahead of the race, and it's so cold that they're frozen. I mean, they don't have to worry about the cold. But they pick these up every so many checkpoints. The one thing is, one of the checkpoints we were at, up in Rainy Pass at the top of the mountain, it was blizzards the whole time we were there, and they never could get any supplies into us at all. Well, the mushers have these bags here, and they would leave, and they leave certain things in it for whoever was around. So the veterinarian told me, he said, we're going to go out and dumpster dive. Well, that's what it was. We're going through all these mushers bags looking for food and everything else ourselves. So, and they had some good things in there, better than we were eating. Okay, here you go. Now, oops, let me just stop this for a second. This is what's called, you're riding right with the musher on this. She has a camcorder on her head. And this is, when you go up the Alaska mountain range, when it's to come down the other side, it's like a double black diamond going down it. And this is actually going down. It's a roller coaster. There's hundreds of foot cliffs on the side, and it is really steep. So watch what happens. I mean, how this goes here. And she's talking to this team the whole time. You can hear her. She's saying, "Oh my gosh." But you can't, it's not three-dimensional, but you can see how low those dogs are. You get a feel of how much they're dropping. You know, there's open water on the sides. And there's the water there. See the open water? Now watch this, at this point, this dog goes, watch it. Okay. There. Anyway, you can't tell, but in the one picture, it's like the musher's looking down at the sled down below as the dogs are going out. But it's really, really steep. Is that repeating itself? It looks like the same, you know. Okay, now, okay, so how? Thank you. Okay. Oh, there's legends up there you hear all the time, and tails and so forth. And the one is that these dogs are Alaskan dogs. They know when somebody coming to veterinary or somebody coming from the lower 48. You know, so they're christened. They go ahead and christen these people from out the lower 48. And again, keeping in mind you're out there for 2 weeks in the same clothes because you don't have a total thing to wear. So that, you know, sounds stupid, silly. Well, this was a dog that was examining its leg. You know, everybody's happy. And then we look, and here the dog christened my shoe or my knee. And of course the dog's looking too. But then I go ahead and to reprimand this dog, and it's looking at me like saying, well, what did you expect? Okay, this is the finish line. There's not a lot of snow there right then, but there's something up on the top of the arch there. And for booty, what do you think it is? I guess, yes.
It's a raven.
Unbelievable. This is a sharp roof.
Would you repeat that so everybody can hear you?
I've been there.
Okay, oh, you know. Okay.
It's a raven.
Scary, scary. Thank you. Good work. Okay, okay, now this is the finish line coming up, and I sat up on the top of a roof for this, and it was probably about the coldest it's ever been, and we waited and waited and waited. So the camera might be shaking because it was so cold. But here you go. This is coming into the finish line, and there you go. Now watch those dogs. I mean, they've gone 1,200 miles, and look how they're running. And look how he's running. Okay, that's Lance Mackey, and he has the distinction of winning. There's a Yukon Quest race that goes only a week before this race, and it's a 1,000-mile race through the Yukon. And then they come down and do this one. Well, they were going to have some big prize for somebody that would ever win both of them, which they said was so ridiculous. And that year he won both of them. He's won both the Yukon Quest and the Iditarod 4 times. He was a cancer survivor. They had a whole side of his jaw having taken out. And so he's quite an athlete. I mean, all these mushers are amazing. And we missed it with the start there with Doug Swingley, but he's won 4 times, and we wanted to show you his team going off there. But anyway, he's broken his ribs twice. The one time he broke them right at the beginning of the race, and if anybody's ever had broken ribs, you really feel, well, again, no one can help them. They have to do all that work, and he's doing all that work for 1,200 miles with broken ribs. I was at a little checkpoint on his way up there, and we knew what was happening. We knew he had it because it was right at the start of the race. And he's sitting there eating a meal, and they said, well, how do you feel? It hurts a little. And he broke it, and then that gorge I was showing you how strong, how steep that was, he went down that and he didn't have goggles on, and he literally froze his corneas. And he had to drop out because he couldn't see it, but they did come back, but his vision's never been the same. But that's how rugged they are. Another fellow came in the finish line when I was there, and he broke his leg, his fibula, in the beginning of the race. If they just wanted Martin Luther, who wins all the time, he chopped off his finger 3 days before the race and went through the whole race. So they're rugged people. But anyway, let's see what the guy said. Now, the other thing is keeping in mind these dogs are, they don't look dead to me as they came in, and that's after 1,200 miles. The next picture I'm going to show you, I'll explain it ahead of time. When you see a marathon runner coming in, he's sort of falling over. Okay, these dogs you're going to see, they just came into the checkpoint just like this, about 5 minutes before these pictures, and they were actually, they had to stop there because the judges go through the musher's basket to make sure he has all the safety equipment. So they're standing right off the other side just waiting for him to stop. Now, whoops. Okay, here you go. Watch this. I mean, look at these dogs. I mean, they're lovers, and just watch a little bit here. You can look at all of them. some others snuggling up to the kid and waiting. And that's 5 minutes after going 1,200 miles. And compare that to a marathon guy's laying on the ground camping. And again, they're friendly, they're nice, they're just sweet dogs. Okay, and also, this is what you'll see with the teams. When they come in at the finish line, the families there and everybody ready to meet them, and they'll go and they'll hug every dog before they even talk to the family, because they know how they got up there themselves. Okay, how cold does it get out there? Okay, it can range anywhere from like the high 20s down to -50, and it's so cold, like so cold, that for your injections, when you're taking your injections out to the dogs, you have to literally slide the injection in your fingertips, because otherwise they'll freeze. The other thing is that for the veterinarians, probably the worst thing that can happen is we have to examine the dog's paw, and there's no glove that you can keep on and examine and spread the fingers or the toes. So we have to do it barehanded. And I would say the majority of veterinarians that have done the race more than 3 times, we all have frostbite of our fingertips. I mean, it's just that cold. And if anybody wants to try it, go home and take a big bowl of water with ice cubes and put your hands in it for 15 minutes. And that's about the same feeling. And now with frostbite, when you go out there, you immediately really hurts a lot. But anyway, yeah, that's getting the frostbite there. But the one time I was flying up there and I was reading a book on hypothermia, and they were talking about, you have to think ahead of time before you take your gloves off. You think what you're going to do, and I thought, that's sort of silly. So we ended up, I was at a little cabin that had about this size, and I was going to sleep all the mushers when they came in. There was no heat and no electricity, just a big wooden stove though. Well, I thought, the heck with this, and they snore. Mushers snore like mad, so there's no way I can do this. So there was a dog shack beside it where the dogs were, and there was like a board like this and space like this, a board like this and space like this. So I went and I had a mummy sleeping bag. They're sort of small ones that was donated to me for the trip from one of the local outfitters, and I never tested it. So when I got in it, again, you're all in there tight. Well, the zipper got stuck down at the bottom. When I taken my gloves off, I'm pulling it. Oh my God! Just what the book said. My hands were just really freezing. So I thought, well, I'm warm enough, so I'll just sleep with this thing closed. Well, every time I would feel like that, this air would rush in. It was like -15 degrees. So by morning, and I felt it all night. I was frozen. And by morning, my pen had frozen, my little thermometer and finger temperature gauge, that had broken. I looked like an ice cube on my chin or my beard, and I realized that, I had hypothermia because you're becoming irrational, and people think I'm like this all the time. I have hypothermia. So that's what, anyway, that's what I experienced with that. And also, yes, the dogs snore as loud as the mushers. Okay, then real quick, and then we're going to finish up with the bush planes. This is the way of life up there. Everybody flies by plane, and there's not many roads. In fact, as I said, you live by the airplanes, like that. Now, the one thing was, when I was up there the first year, I made the mistake of getting up there a week ahead of time, having no knowledge of anything. I didn't know what was happening, where we're going, and all you hear are these war stories. I think, oh my God, so many people froze to death on the snow machines, and the dog did this, and the planes crashed, and they couldn't get the plane up, just everything. So by the time the start of the race the next day, I'm like, oh, what am I doing up here? And I couldn't sleep, so I went down to the restaurant to get a glass of milk. And when I went down there, I saw some guys all sitting around, and they were the bush pilots for the next day. Can you imagine a real responsible group of people? Now, again, they all have, these are actually turned out to be true stories, like they say. But this fellow, we're flying along like this, and he says, well, you want the good news or the bad news about flying? I said, oh, why don't you give us the good news first? No, the bad news first, yeah. He says, well, he said, the way you guys are flying, as much you're flying, it's just a matter of time before your plane crash. I said, well, what's the good news? He said, well, it's not, there's very low fatalities in this, so if you break your back, you're not fatal. So that was that one. Then this is, you can hear the pilot say, I don't even know if we're going to get off the ground, so full. And then the other thing is, what the experience when I first got there, I get in and I'm starting to take my coat. It's just a pilot view, no navigation or anything. And I'm taking my coat off again. He said, don't take your coat off. He said, if we crash and you become paralyzed, we might be there for 2 days before they find us. But again, he's right. It's true. That's what happened. So, okay, this is the first plane I got in on, and it's a little type of Cub. And you straddle your legs around the pilot, and you come in, and we land in a little opening in the trees. You have to come in this big jumbo jet. We're sliding on the skis, and all of a sudden the plane goes over like that and fell off the side. And I thought, oh my golly. He said, don't worry, this is nothing. So there were 11 veterinarians there that time, and 3 of the 11 were the 3 separate plane crashes. And this plane, 3 days later, got caught in a crosswind, taking off, and was totally destroyed. But again, there were no fatalities. Okay, this is the Alaskan mountain range we've been talking about, and this is flying over it. Up and shoot. Okay, off in the distance there, that's Mount McKinley, and then these are all the mountains in here. And I'll show you a correlation of how they look small, but I'll show you how much a plane goes to that. There's one, it's 50 miles wide and 200 miles long. And there's only one pass through the mountains. And the problem is, it doesn't go straight. It goes like this, like that, and it goes around, it just goes zigzags all around, and there's probably maybe 2 or 3 options every time you come to a spot. And the one time I'm flying with these pilots, and we're down in it, and he says, which way would you go? And he says, planes crash all the time. You know, the wind of one of these, it's just a dead circle, and they can't get the plane up, and they can't get it around, and they'll find the bodies next spring, something like that sort of. So, which one version you're going to get closer? Is anybody tired? Okay. Raise your hand here. Anyway, up there, over the time I've been there, I hear people talk about death like a cocktail party, that somebody fell through the ice, or somebody's snow machine broke down, or just people, it's casual, plane crashes, whatever, and they just sort of, it's part of their lives up there. And I think, geez, down here, we think it's horrible, absolutely horrible, if you get caught in traffic, Richard Highway traffic jam, like, oh my God, it's horrible. Or the worst thing, I mean, nothing could be worse than this, is that the TV cable went off for the Monday Night Football. So anyway, that's a plane, and that's that mountain we're seeing. So that's the size of the planes there. So here we're going to take you for a ride here, and this is a bush plane, and we're flying along near the mountains there. So I think that's it. Okay, now this. Oops. Okay, that was the mountains on a clear day. This rainy pass I told you about, after 10 years you get to choose where you want to go. The rainy pass up on the top of the Alaskan mountain range. And it's the highest point in the race, and I wanted to be up there and see what it was like because I'd never gone. But the problem was there were blizzards the whole time while we're waiting for the start of the race, and the teams get up there about 3 days later. And of course they're going, and the mushers are going under the storm. So they said we have to go up. We have to go up there. So I'm sitting next to this pilot, no navigation or anything else. We're flying up. Well, as you're flying, it's 300 miles away, and you'll see these storm clouds, like thunderstorm clouds you see on the bay here, and they're big snow clouds with the storm going along. But finally, we get to the point where you saw those mountains, and we entered them because this rainy pass is way up at the top of all those. So we have to fly through the V down in these mountains. Keep in mind what you saw as far as the mountains, and we're in there right now. And the visibility out front is about 0. So he drops us down as far as he can. You can sort of see the ground down there. So we'll take you for a little trip like that. And I mean, we're flying like that, and it was exciting. I mean, you can see you don't see anything, and all you remember those mountains you just saw before. So, you see, and we're finally clearing up there, and I don't know if you can see up there, but there's the peak of a mountain that we finally get to see, but that's what we've been flying through the whole time. Go back to the cruelty aspect, and I hope by now you don't, you can understand it. These groups, I had a friend of mine, I was practicing one day at the hospital, and he called me and he said, get on the radio, get on the phone, they're really mashing up the Iditarod. They're really giving a hard time. So I got on the phone and called. It was a big talk station in Washington. And I got on, and you never get through. Well, I went right through, and I'm talking to the operator. I said, geez, explain what it was at that time. I'd been a veterinarian 7 times. And he said, well, we'll hold you and we'll put you through. Well, I hear this fellow talking about, he said, the Iditarod is the Holocaust. 50 dogs die a year. None of them want to run. They're all on drugs. So it goes on and on and on like this. So they put me on. I said, sir, I said, you know, I've been a veterinarian on there 7 times. And I said, I don't think I've seen any of that. I said, how many times have you been up there? I've never been there, but I know. And so I said, well, don't you think, I said, veterinarians are trained in their philosophy is care and welfare of the dog. And I said, with what you're saying, these veterinarians are so competitive to get up there, don't you think one of them would break and say what you're saying? He said, you're all disgrace your profession. So they cut me off. I guess I wasn't making it too good. But these mushers, and they're bond with their dogs, they love them, they care about them. These are little puppies, they live in kennels, they raise them, and this is, they have a wagon or the wheel there, first wheel, and they learn to run by going in that far enough away that I keep a diary with me, and I went out there one night and I read it afterwards, but I said that, you know, I went out to see the dogs, and it was like 3 in the morning, and I said there's no clouds in the sky, and there's no moon in the sky, and but I mean, just to see that, I mean, you see it when you go up there, that it's just spectacular. So that's okay. So anyway, I guess the first question, or the one that everybody asked, was why would you do it? And I did it to have lifelong memories, and I think I succeeded. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, before you leave, just give me another 15 seconds. When we talked about the cold, we have somebody that's going to show us where, and it's Kelly Brown.
While Kelly's on her way up here, please remember or know that we have refreshments for you in the back. In fact, in one tray there are dog bone shaped cookies. They are for you. all of us. Anyway, please help yourself to refreshments.
I'm sorry, Kelly's going up there because she's been practicing this all week. Okay, let's see. We've got to put you in your coat here. This is an anorak, it's called, and it's an outer coat, and it's very thin, but it blocks the wind, and that's the one I'm wearing that I wear from all years and everything. But then, it fits well. Okay, yeah, and then this is the fur ruff you see, and the reason for that is just like those dogs have. It covers your face and creates a dead space. There you go. A dead space so that you can see. But in your case, you win a official beaver hat. I told you you love. Okay. Come on up here. See what she thought you'd be having to wear this all night. Told everybody. And these are mittens, and they go over the top of her like this. And there you go. Okay, you can just wear that for a few minutes. You'll go. But anyway, now the thing is, as far as the boots, I won't make her wear these, but basically, these are these are boots up there. This one, you feel that one. Yeah, that's 3.5 pounds, and that's about a pound. They're like slippers, and actually these are rated for -50 degrees, and they have all sorts of layers of everything in them. And this is just a piece of moose leather and a little felt inside. And guess which is warmer? I couldn't believe it, you know, because when you go up there, you have that little bag for everything, including your sleeping bag. And there's no stores out there or anything else, and I thought all I need to do is have this little thing and have my feet freezing. And finally, the lady told me the reason why these work. For a bootie, why would these work better than these? Or actually for a t-shirt, how's that? You know, souvenir t-shirt. Why would these work better than these? No. Close. Any guess? Yes.
Natural animal skin.
No. Good. Yes. I'm sorry. No. I'll tell you what. The reason these work and these don't, when your foot's in here, it's perfectly straight. It doesn't move at all. In this boot, it's constantly massaging your foot, and it keeps the blood circulation up. And for all the years I've been there, I wear this, and it's absolutely amazing how comfortable it is. You can't use it in water, though. That's the one problem. So you can't use it where it's wet. But for up there, it's really, really a wonderful thing. Now, for Kelly being so good today, I'm sorry. Here, you can get to where this is set. It's warm, but that's just the other part of it. Okay. Kelly gets a t-shirt right from she gets a t-shirt, right from the race, and what it says is, the best long distance runners eat raw meat, run naked, and sleep in the snow. Okay, well, thank you very much. You've been a good audience, and sorry to sorry. On behalf, I want to recognize Brandon. He has been fantastic.